Good morning, everybody. I apologise for the late start, but everyone, I believe, knows the reason. The proceedings today will be live streamed with the usual 15-minute delay. Those with mobile telephones may use them to report what they hear in the hearing room, but only after 15 minutes have elapsed since the event that they're reporting. They may not be used for recording or photography. May the witness be sworn, please.
I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Please take a seat.
I understand that for health reasons you occasionally need to stand up.
Yes, I have.
Please do so without hesitation, and it won't interrupt your evidence.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Can you give your full name to the inquiry, please?
Yes, it's Janet Williams.
You have given two witness statements to the inquiry. I'm only going to be dealing with the first one today. The contents of your second statement will be dealt with in Tranche 4. Your first witness statement is MPS 0749778. It's at tab A1 of the bundle, sir. That's the front page of your witness statement shown on screen at the moment. And if we go to page 152, please. You signed that statement, although your signature is redacted, on the 3rd of September 2025. Is that right?
I did, sir.
Can you confirm, please, that the contents of that statement is true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It's true as far as I can recollect.
Thank you. We can take that down now. Thank you very much. I'm just going to deal with some of the background to your policing career and the post that you came into in Special Branch. You were served as a commander of Special Branch between November 2003 and December 2005. Do those dates sound right?
That's correct, sir.
You succeeded HN146 Acting Commander Colin Black and were succeeded by HN147 Philip Gormley. Is that right?
That's correct.
Going back in time a little, you joined the Metropolitan Police Service in 1982, and after a brief period in uniform, you joined CID and were promoted up to Detective Inspector. Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
While serving as a Detective Inspector, you tell us at paragraph 6 of your witness statement, page 3, that you undertook a short period of undercover work. And your undercover work was in connection with the investigation into the murder of a woman on railway tracks in the late 1980s. Is that right?
It was several women. It was Tammy Mendoza and other women who were attacked, raped, murdered and mutilated near the railway lines in West Hampstead. And I was part of the female undercover team.
Thank you. In 1996, you joined the Anti-Terrorist Branch, SO13, where you were then promoted to Detective Chief Inspector, and you were involved in investigating the IRA and the first aspects of Islamist-inspired terrorism from about 1998 onwards. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
You were subsequently promoted to Detective Superintendent and spent 12 months as the head of the Positive Action Team, developing policy to improve BME recruitment and retention following the Macpherson report. Is that right?
That's correct. The proportion of black and minority ethnic officers was abysmally low. And one of the Macpherson inquiry recommendations was that we were to improve that. And the unit was set up, and I put it in place and defined the strategy to try and improve that situation, which we did.
So you agreed that that team was needed at that time?
It was needed.
Did you have any view on the extent to which progress was made in that area?
It was difficult and it was slow. Sometimes it felt quite torturous. And I think it was quite a challenge in the environment we found ourselves, because I think there had been some loss of public confidence in policing and their ability to police effectively minority ethnic communities in London, and therefore we were on an uphill. It was an uphill task, but I was surrounded by very committed black and minority ethnic officers, and we persevered and tried our best, and we did actually get some traction and build some confidence.
Thank you. In 2003, you were promoted to Commander of Special Branch when the SDS came under your responsibility. And I think you were first approached by HN144 Assistant Commissioner David Venness on your senior command course, and he asked you if you were interested in becoming Commander of Special Branch. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I obviously knew a little about Special Branch activity because the anti-terrorist branch and Special Branch worked in tandem during my time in the anti-terrorist branch. I knew David Venness personally, and I felt it was a real challenge, but it would be a very interesting challenge. So I agreed to take on that role.
You say in your statement at paragraph 306 that you weren't aware of any racist incidents when you were Commander of Special Branch, and you say, I was not aware of or told about any racist or sexist incidents taking place during my time as Commander Special Branch. Were you aware of racist incidents within the police before you were Commander Special Branch?
Oh, yes. I mean, you'd be naive. You wouldn't expect me to sit here and say there weren't any racist incidents in the Metropolitan Police, or indeed misogynistic incidents in the Metropolitan Police. Of course there were. I think in any large organisation there are, and to say otherwise would be disingenuous.
Did you agree with the conclusions of the Macpherson report that the MPS was institutionally racist?
I found it very hard to agree at the time, because that felt like a step beyond what I saw incidents as individual incidents, but I read the Macpherson report. I understood the evidence, and I did agree the conclusion, having done that.
Thank you. I want to look briefly at your training and preparation for the role of Commander Special Branch, please. You say at paragraph 43, page 19 of your witness statement, that Acting Commander Colin Black gave you a brief handover, which was limited because of availability, to several conversations during which he explained what each unit did. What did Acting Commander Black tell you in your handover about the SDS? Do you recall?
I think it was quite limited in that it was an undercover unit that had been running for many years, and that had a good reputation and delivered good intelligence that the organisation had found useful over those years. And I think he told me roughly how many undercover officers were in the unit. What I didn't appreciate was, at the time, that how long those officers were expected to serve undercover. That was not briefed to me, probably because, he had been in Special Branch a long time and just accepted that. However, for someone who hadn't been in Special Branch, who'd been in the crime world, which is where I came from, that was very unusual. Well, it was beyond my understanding.
Did he brief you on any particular issues which were of concern in relation to the SDS at all?
No, because he didn't tell me that they were undercover for years and years. So I didn't have cause for concern when he briefed me.
In relation to the SDS's role in conducting undercover deployments, on you becoming Commander of Special Branch, what did you understand from his handover, or indeed from elsewhere, was the purpose of SDS undercover deployments as distinct from any other unit's undercover deployments?
My understanding was that they're there to provide intelligence to prevent subversion and serious public order that and give that intelligence to the operational teams.
Superintendent Alan Mitchell, who was a contemporary of yours when you were Commander of Special Branch, recorded in the notes of his Operation Hearn interview. We don't need to bring it on screen, but sir, for your reference, it's MPS 738090 tab B142 of the bundle. And he stated this: my understanding of their role, referring to the SDS, was to disrupt from within, as opposed to traditional sources who would simply report on the movements. The belief within the unit was that if it could channel an organisation towards a path that had less impact upon the police. Is that how you understood their role at the time?
At the time of that, we're still talking about the time of the handover, and at the time of the handover, no, I didn't. I thought it was as per my previous answer.
Did you come to understand that particular role at any time after the handover?
Yes, I began to understand that that's what was happening. Yes.
Did you regard that as lawful, justified, and appropriate?
In each, I'm sure we'll come on to this, but each deployment, I looked at the deployment. I looked at, obviously we ensured that it was part of the control strategy, and I can talk about that.
9939, and this is the ACPO Crime Committee Steering Group on National Standards in Covert Policing, which was also known as the National Standards Project. Were you aware at the time of the National Standards Project? It was before your time as Commander of Special Branch.
No, I was aware of ACPO Crime Committee, and I was aware there were national standards for undercover policing. I didn't know there was a specific steering group put in place to develop that. It doesn't surprise me.
No, thank you. At page 13, we can see that what was being considered, as you said, were new codes of practice on undercover operations, use of informants, and interception of communications and abstraction of communications data. It's the three numbers towards the bottom of the page there. We also know that there was concern expressed by Commander Barry Moss about that aspects of the SDS work wouldn't fit with these new policies, a concern echoed also by Superintendent Eric McLaughlin at pages 17 and 15 of this document, respectively, which leads to a response from Colin Black on page 16, stating we should now exempt the SDS and any other parts of special branch work we can justify from these protocols. Were you aware, on becoming Commander of Special Branch, that the SDS was considered exempt from those protocols which otherwise were applicable to undercover operations?
No.
I'll move on then. In relation to your management responsibility, you say you had management, that can be taken down, thank you, responsibility for Detective Chief Superintendents, and you say at paragraph 25 of your statement at page 10 that you took a more intrusive role in supervision and oversight than you perhaps would normally have done in relation to the SDS, and you attribute that to your personal experience of working undercover in North London. When you say more intrusive than you would normally have done, was that solely related to the undercover work that you'd done, or did you consider your approach was more intrusive than your predecessor's approach?
I don't think there's two parts to that question, aren't there, really? Did I do that purely because of my personal experience? I think partly. Partly because it was quite a traumatic experience when I was fairly young in service, and I post that experience I was very intrusive, always intrusive in terms of undercover operations that I authorised. I wanted to dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure, particularly I was very concerned about the welfare of the undercover officers and the legal framework they were working under, and making sure that they understood their responsibilities. Was I more intrusive than my predecessors? I can't be sure because I obviously wasn't there, but I got the impression I was.
Thank you. You were responsible for reviewing SDS UCO authorisation applications under RIPA.
Yes.
And we'll come to some of those in due course. But at paragraph 199, pages 88 to 89 of your statement, you discuss...
Sorry, paragraph
199, pages 88 to 89. You discuss their unauthorised reporting on justice campaigns, and you say it would have been the responsibility of SDS managers, namely the DI or DCI, to determine whether or not such reporting was proportionate and justified. But do you accept that, given your role as Commander of Special Branch and your role in relation to authorising deployments, it was also your responsibility to make sure that there was clarity around the necessity, proportionality and justification of those deployments?
I don't actually, and I'll explain why. My responsibility was to review the previous the previous deployment, look at the future deployment, establish whether it was lawful and justified and proportionate and necessary, and it was undiscriminatory. And I did that very carefully. And once I had given those parameters, it is for more junior officers to police those parameters and look at the specific intelligence coming in on a day-to-day basis. My job would not allow me to do that. There weren't enough hours in the day, ever, for me to do that properly. If I had been responsible for doing that, I wouldn't have done it effectively because there's just no human possibility that I could have done so.
Knowing what we now know in relation to some of the misconduct and some of the unjustified reporting and collateral intrusion into these types of campaigns, do you think, looking back, that your approach was intrusive enough?
No.
And would you accept that a more intrusive hands-on management style would have been appropriate in respect of the S, given what we now know?
I don't. Okay, again, I'll divide your question. Do I think it was? Do I think it was intrusive enough? The answer is no. I stand by that. However, could I have done the day-to-day stuff? No, I couldn't, because there were 5 ranks between me and those officers. 5 ranks that were responsible and accountable for their day-to-day activities. My responsibility was much more strategic than that. By the very
Thank you, sir. You had been explaining about the control strategy. I will move on from that, but I just want to ask you, in terms of the intelligence briefings that you said you received intelligence summaries in relation to the review process,
Yes.
but you didn't see the reporting itself.
No, that's correct.
And so I just want to ask you for your view as to whether you felt that you were well placed or not to assess the proportionality of the deployment, namely to balance the value of the intelligence against the degree of intrusion required.
At the time, I felt I was.
Is that still your view, or has it changed?
No, it's still the same, because because I can only go on those specific authorisations that came before me, and looking at, I was confident in the decisions I made based on that specific information in front of me.
Can we look at some of them then, please? MPS 0526873, that's tab B33 of the bundle, sir. This is an application for a CHIS authorisation in relation to HN3, an officer we're calling HN3. And at page 35, it records that a review of previous conduct has shown no significant collateral intrusion. It's page
I'm sorry, I've got nothing on my screen.
Page 35. So this is section 6 of the application for you to authorise this deployment, and we know on page 48, there's no need to turn to it, but we know that you signed and authorised this deployment on the 7th of June 2005, and here it records a review, or I think it should say of, previous conduct has shown no significant collateral intrusion. It's right at the end, the bottom of the page.
Can I read this, please?
Of course.
Is this the whole thing? I've never seen this. I didn't have this in my bundle, did I?
You did, yes.
Oh, did I?
Yes, tab B33. It's one of your CHIS authorisations. You authorised this deployment on the basis of this application, and you signed it on the 7th of June 2005 at page 48. And this records a review of previous conduct has shown no significant collateral intrusion. You accept that? It's right at the bottom of the page.
I accept that's what it says.
And we can turn to page 48 so you can see that it is indeed your authorisation. There's your signature, 7th of June 2005. At page 99 of this document, this is a list of intelligence reports that were associated with the application for this authorisation in October 2004. And we can see at the top there, one relates to Emily Apple having her baby. Were you aware at the time, on the basis of this document, that HN3 had reported on the birth of Emily Apple's baby?
I honestly can't recall.
But these are the documents that were appended to the application for you to authorise the deployment. And on this occasion, in October 2004, you authorised it for a period of 2 months and required further information to be submitted. But it's clear that you had this information at the time you gave that authorisation for 2 months. Would you accept that reporting on the birth of her baby was a significant collateral intrusion?
It looks to be so.
And that you would or should have been aware of it at the time, given it was in the documents that were in the application for your authorisation, which you gave, albeit for a short period of 2 months at the time.
I missed it.
Thank you. That can be taken down now. I want to move on to HN77, please. HN77, her deployment related to anarchist and extreme environmentalist. Her target groups were Earth First, Disarm DSEI, and the G8 Summit of 2005. If we look at the authorisation, please, MPS 0526927, and this is at tab B35 of the bundle, sir. And if we could go to page 14. There we
Make
can
that a little bit bigger, please.
Yes, we can zoom
Thank you.
in. So there we can see target area, environmental extremists, target groups, those that I've just described, and target area and groups. This supports an application for a further limited authorisation to allow FP, which is HN77, to close her operation, see below. You were asked about this and you dealt with it at paragraphs 150 to 151 at page 68 of your statement.
Yes.
Where you say you refer to a file note, the one we've just been to, MPS 0526927, where you recorded on the 8th of October 2003, I'm of the view that there is insufficient information contained within the application and associated documents for me to make an informed decision as to whether to authorise this deployment for a full year or indeed to cancel it. I have asked Detective Superintendent Fuller to conduct a full review of RIPA and HRA Human Rights Act issues regarding this and other deployments. I feel I have sufficient information to renew this application for a period of 2 months, after which time Detective Superintendent Fuller will have completed his review and I will be in a position to make a more informed judgment. And then at paragraph 151, you explain that you had been told, according to DCI Dell's file note, which is page 14 that we have here of this document, that her operation had reached its natural end and her intelligence potential was ever diminishing as her withdrawal progressed. And DCI Dell had also stated that her intelligence product had for too long been limited to areas on the periphery of the control strategy. So in your view, the necessity of the operation came into question, hence the reason for your short authorisation for only 2 months and a request for Detective Superintendent Fuller to review it. Is that right?
It is.
If we go, please, to... So this was one of the occasions where you had received this as a number with a number of other CHIS authorisations. You reviewed them and authorised only a short deployment continuation because you were concerned you didn't have enough information. What was the reaction of the SDS managers to that outcome?
I think they accepted it. I don't ever. I only ever remember. I only ever remember the SDS managers getting really concerned about the crane review. I don't remember them ever getting concerned about my decisions because they were clear and I'd had a conversation with them. They understood my rationale. And they appreciated that I was doing what I was required to do under the law.
And so did you feel at the time that your concerns were being taken seriously by them?
Yes.
That can be taken down now, please. If we come to look at another one, then this is in relation to HN118, who was also known by the codename Ring Wraith. It's MPS 0526807, and it's at tab B125 of the bundle, sir. Page 4, please.
Can you just blow it up for me? Thank you.
So this describes the deployment into dissent and globalised resistance to identify left-wing extremists active in these groups. The deployment dates are listed at page 2 as being August 2001 to November 2006. So again, another lengthy deployment. There is an authorisation signed by Acting Commander Alan Mitchell before it comes to you on the 6th of August 2004 to August 2005 at page 70. We don't need to go to that one, but you were asked to authorise this deployment in March 2005, which you duly did so at page 51. Your signature appears there. And again on the 7th of June 2005 at page 36. And then a last time on the 22nd of September 2005, which is page 6 of the document. So you appear to have been authorising the deployment for around 3 months at a time. Would you agree?
I haven't got all those documents in front of me, but I'll take your word for that.
Yes, those pages contain your signatures, which
Yes.
we've seen on those dates, March, June, and September.
Yes.
And if we go to page 6, that's the September one, and there you are authorising the deployment until the 1st of December 2005, so some slightly less than 3 months from the date on which you signed this one. And in this authorisation, there are various bullet points that set out the requirements that you've laid out in order to agree to authorise the deployment. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And so it's...
Can we, this nominal, this, can we just, I need to just check who this is.
Of course, it's HN118.
HN118.
Please open his Simon Wellings. Is his cover name.
Yeah.
Also codenamed Ring Wraith in this documentation. And what I'm asking about is that it seems here, in contrast to authorisations made by your predecessors, Commander Pearce and Commander Black, you were putting some conditions on the authorisation of these particular deployments as set out in these bullet points. So the investigation is to receive the personal and direct supervision of Detective Chief Inspector Michael Dell, who is to ensure compliance with the regulatory framework set out above, and he is to ensure the operation is reviewed on the 2nd of October 2005 and the 2nd of November 2005. So although you authorised the deployment for 3 months, you wanted reviews to be undertaken monthly. Is that right?
I think there was a specific reason for that. May I ask a question of you? Because it's such a long time ago, but was this the officer in Operation Dalliance?
Yes.
Yes, in which case you will recall I took a very active role and I reviewed every 3 months personally, but I wanted much more proactive supervision in relation to him because of that potential compromise, and I wanted somebody being. I wanted to insist that senior managers really focused in to protect him, to make sure he was okay.
And indeed, the next bullet point maybe goes to that as well. A full reauthorisation application report, including an updated risk assessment, must be submitted to my office by the 1st of December 2005. This report must contain details of any additional undercover officers deployed. Does that relate to the same concern?
Yes.
If we go to page 9, please.
Can we blow it up for me, please?
I'll give you a moment to read it, but I'm interested. This is the intelligence case in the application for reauthorisation of HN118's deployment, and it contains a summary of reporting.
Yes.
Would you agree? So first of all, when you referred earlier to intelligence summaries, is this what you were referring to? Would you agree that it's quite high on assertion with little factual detail? For example, looking particularly at the second bullet point, the quality and quantity of both strategic and tactical intelligence provided by UCO Ringwraith, whose HN118, subject of high praise, was a crucial factor in the successful policing of the anti-summit demonstrations.
Well, I think that's quite factual, because what he's saying is Tayside police have given high praise for the quality and quantity of the strategic and tactical intelligence.
And a crucial factor in the successful policing of the anti-summit demonstrations. It's quite bold language, isn't it?
The GCI was a very experienced intelligence officer, very experienced at providing intelligence summaries. I certainly didn't see it as broad brush when I read it.
Could we look at page 10, please? And blow it up a little bit. particularly the top half. There we go. This is the section labelled Operational Objectives and Strategy. I'll give you a moment to refresh your memory of the content, particularly I'm looking at the top 4 paragraphs.
Okay.
Would you mind just putting the cipher list back in the folder, please, just so it can't be seen?
It is in the folder.
Just close it over.
Yes.
This was the application that was sent to you to approve and authorise HN118's continued deployment. Would you agree that in this section on operational objectives and strategy, it's relatively low on specific details?
I don't think it is low on detail.
Were you shown anything else other than this document in relation to? Were there other associated documents or not? 20
years later, you can't remember that sort of level of detail. I'd have certainly asked the DCI, he would have given me an oral briefing, and I would have asked any questions in detail that I wanted to. I need to explain, because I'd been brought up in the crime world, and particularly the anti-terrorist world, I'd been using decision logs for all of my career since the anti-terrorist branch. John Greaves sort of bulldozed me into that, and I made sure that all my senior officers and myself did that all the time. I've asked, and I would, for something like this, if I'd have had concerns, or there was detail that I'd asked for that was not on the form, I would have made a decision in the decision log. And the decision logs are basically notebooks that are carbon copied, and they're dated and they're numbered, and you would look at the type of decision you were making and write that down. You would detail the decision you'd made. You would look at the reasons for that decision, but you'd also look at things you disregarded and explain why you disregarded them. And then you would say where that decision was going, and who you'd referred it to, and the time and date of that. And that the pull-out part would then go to the person actioned, to if you had someone to action a decision. And I've asked for reference to those documents, which would have been hugely comprehensive, because I'm a real note taker. But unfortunately, those have not been made available to me. So I can't give you the detail that you're asking me. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. If you can't answer the question or you don't recall, please do just say. Do you think that granting the authorisation for only a period of 3 months related solely to the concern you had about compromise, or do you think that on the face of the application you were concerned about the insufficiency of information you had to authorise for longer? If
I would have been concerned about the insufficiency of the detail, I would have made a note of that, either on here or in the decision log. I don't recall doing that for this officer. I do recall this officer very well because of my personal dealings with him. So I can positively say that no, I was after the 3-month reviews for the reason I've given you, and that was the only reason.
Thank you. Can we take that down, please, and look at MPS 0526804?
Before we go from that,
Of course.
I don't want there to be a misapprehension. The authorisations that you gave this officer authorised for longer than 3 months, but you required a review every month.
That's right, from the senior officers in the group. That's right.
If we go back to page 51 in this bundle, we will see your authorisation of the 10th of March 2005, which, as you can see, authorises until the 1st of December, but you need a review on the 2nd of April, and then assessments submitted on the 2nd of June.
Yes, thank you, sir, that's correct.
And we see that pattern going throughout this year's authorisation of this officer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, so MPS 0526804, please. It's tab 30B37, sir, of the bundle. This is in relation to an officer HN145 Carlos Saraki. Do you recall that particular officer?
No.
Page 3, please. This records the authorisation of this particular officer, UCO Craggy Island, who is HN104, into the Antifa and No Platform groups in order to identify the left-wing extremists active in these groups. If we look at the top paragraph, I'll allow you a moment to read that. Thank you. If we go then, please, to page 5, we can see from page 5 that on the 22nd of September 2005, you again signed this particular authorisation, authorising the deployment of HN104 until the 1st of December 2005 with, as we can see from the third bullet point, reviews monthly in October and November 2005. So it seems that in relation to HN104, as you did with HN118, you put these particular conditions in of monthly reviews and updated application reports, including updated risk assessment, in relation to this officer in the same way that you did with HN118, when there was no similar risk of compromise of this officer. Why was it necessary to do that with HN104 in the absence of a compromise, which was your reason for doing so in relation to HN118?
I can't help you further than the documentation. I can't recall.
If we look at page 16, please. We blow that up, and I'm looking particularly at the middle big paragraph. Again, I'll give you a moment to look at it.
Yes.
So the part I'm interested in is that the first line of the big middle paragraph, UCO Craggy Island, which is HN104, is currently providing coverage and assessment of the Socialist Party and the reaction of the other hard left-wing group's reaction to the shooting of John Charles de Menendez. In your witness statement at paragraph 198, page 88, you refer to Robert Hastings' witness statement and his reporting on the John Charles de Menendez campaign. And you said that as far as you were aware, no UCOs were tasked to report on that campaign. Is that still your recollection now? You said you don't recall there being any discussions about justice group reporting in general.
I don't think that's what this is. I think this is about... Okay, so yes, it is still my position, because I read this, and I still read this, as, if you look at the very bottom line of the first paragraph, it said that he's going to provide advice, that this was to used to provide advice to gold and silver in order to ensure the policing arrangements of this and similar events are handled sensitively. This is about the left wing and their reaction to John Charles de Menendez's death. It's not about an infiltration into a justice group. It's about the reaction of the left wing and violent protest on the streets of London, and how this intelligence is going to help us to handle that in a way to keep the public safe and to ensure that this is handled sensitively. So I think they're two different issues.
Thank you. The authorisation documentation states that in various places, at pages 9, 42, 57 and 72, that collateral intrusion in relation to this campaign is an inevitability in the circumstances. Would you agree with that?
Sorry, where is that come from?
Pages 9, 42, 57 and 72. It's from the authorisation documentation in the applications that you would have received to authorise this deployment. In relation to collateral intrusion, it stated it's an inevitability in the circumstances.
Can I read that specifically, please?
Page 9, as an example. Oh, 42, yeah. I don't think it matters, it's exactly the same wording. It's the second line of the paragraph entitled Collateral Intrusion.
Collateral intrusion, yes, and I think they've taken steps to minimise that and not record it. So I think they've recognised it and taken action to mitigate.
Would you accept that direct targeting of justice groups and campaigns in relation to civil litigation against the Metropolitan Police Service were not merely collateral reporting, but more directly reporting on the campaigns themselves?
I don't see that here, though.
Would you accept that there's no justification for reporting on the campaigns themselves?
Well, in truth, would I? I think it depends. I think it depends if you see that a campaign, if there's intelligence coming forward that a campaign was being hijacked and that campaign was going to lead to serious public disorder or violence, then I would have to consider that. Equally, you could say that about an MP, couldn't you? That we'd never put surveillance on an MP. Obviously, normally that would be the case. But if an MP is committing serious and organised crime, you would have to think about that. So I think that the circumstances, I think in the normal course of things, of course you wouldn't do that. Of course you would take steps to mitigate against it. But I don't think I can answer in all circumstances. Would you ever not? Because you have to take public security and the safety of the public seriously. So in certain circumstances, I would expect it to be a very live conversation. I would expect it to be thoroughly investigated by myself. I would definitely make a decision in my decision log, and I would be able to give you, if that had ever come across my desk, then I would be able to give you more detail about that. I don't recollect that.
If collateral intrusion is described as inevitable, does that not amount to essentially the same thing as direct targeting? Isn't the impact the same?
No, because if you recognise that there is potential for minimal collateral intrusion and you take that seriously and you put in conditions to minimise that, like no live monitoring or recording or other things that may well be thought of, then no, I don't think it is.
Thank you. If we look, please, at page 9, is this the same page or is this page 42? Thank you. Again, a similar application by, on this occasion, HN145 to you to authorise this deployment with the operational objectives and strategy set out, particularly in the top 4 paragraphs there. And in particular, at the first paragraph, reference to HN104 providing extensive intelligence, and indeed at the second paragraph refers to his placing providing high-grade intelligence, and that the value of this intelligence to public order policing is significant and directly informs the deployment or non-deployment of resources by the MPS and other forces. Again, some relatively bold language, quite high on assertion there. Would you agree?
No, I think that's fact.
And again, would you agree that it's relatively low on details, relatively low on specifics?
I think it's a good summary, and if I wanted more detail, I would have asked questions, and if I'd have asked questions that gave light to further information that I thought relevant, I would have recorded that in the decision log.
And so your position is, in relation to this one, is similarly to others we've looked at, was that you considered what was in the application was sufficient for you to make an informed decision about the justification for the deployment and its proportionality?
I think what was in the documentation, together with the personal briefing and any questions I asked and notes I made thereof in my decision logs, would have been sufficient, or I wouldn't have signed them.
That can be taken down, thank you. We now know that HN104 Carlos Saraki cohabited with a woman called Donna McLean between late 2002 and May 2004. If you had known that, would that have made a difference to your authorisation of this deployment?
What, because they were living in the same place?
Because they were cohabiting as a couple together.
Oh, that's a different question. If I'd have been told they were cohabiting, I would have assumed that meant they were living in the same place. If I had been told that they're cohabiting as a couple, that's a very different proposition.
So what would have been your reaction in both of those two scenarios?
So if they'd been cohabiting and living in the same space, people do that. Men and women live in the same shared building all the time. But if I'd been told that they were cohabiting as a couple and he was reporting on her, that would be wrong. And I would consider that a critical incident and I would deal with it.
Would you have withdrawn him from the field?
Probably, yes.
And in relation to if you'd only been told they were cohabiting in the sense of living in the same building but not in a romantic relationship with each other, why would you have considered it justified in terms of the level of collateral intrusion that would have meant even into Donna McLean's life, even if they weren't in a relationship together?
Because people who are friends, people who are things in common, tend to share premises, don't they?
But this is an undercover officer who's deceiving those he's with. And in the scenario that even if it's not a romantic relationship, it's a shared cohabitation, he's deceiving her still at that time. Why does that collateral intrusion into her life justified?
Because I didn't know he was deceiving her like that.
But if you had,
if I had known that he was deceiving her and having a sexual relationship with her, then that would have been a critical incident. I dealt with it.
Standing back now, did you consider whether there were inherent risks in long-term undercover deployments into activist groups in terms of the level of collateral intrusion?
Yeah, I think now, standing back, knowing what we know now about the sexual liaisons, yes. And I think we should have done things differently.
It should have been considered more than it was at the time. Because you're putting an officer into a group for such a long time, for 4 or 5 years, that is going to lead to a lot of collateral intrusion, isn't it?
I think it's very difficult, isn't it? It's very difficult to take out of your mind what you know now. But I didn't know that at the time I was Commander Special Branch. If I did know, I would have taken action. And believe me, I would have taken action. And everyone would have known that too. So if we look in general at STS and the long-term deployment, I think we could have done other things to help mitigate against their welfare concerns, against how their family have suffered, and particularly, of course, how women have suffered because of what they did. Those women need our apology, because there's been a huge intrusion into their life, and I'm sure that they were never the same again. So yes, of course.
At the time, was the risk of sexual relationships undercover considered at all or mitigated for during the CHIS authorisation or review process? Did it ever come into your mind at the time?
No. Perhaps it should have done, but no, it didn't.
Sarah, I'm conscious of the time. Is that a good moment for the lunch break?
Certainly. If you've reached a natural pause, then we'll break for lunch.
Thank you, sir.
We'll resume, please, as soon before 2 as we reasonably can. Can I suggest 3 minutes to? Right.
Thank you, sir.